Now, we've been telling you about the 50UP Club, which sprung out of the One Big Switch campaign. And this is terrific because I mentioned last week, and they're one of our great sponsors, we've got over 130,000 members now of the 50UP Club. And they've been conducting some surveys among those people. Some of the responses have been very interesting. And what's come out of it particularly is that whenever governments start talking about pension changes with superannuation and other things, one of the first things people react to is this recent debate over politicians' entitlements. And it's come through very, very strongly in the surveys conducted by the 50UP Club. Christopher Zinn is with them, and I'm pleased to say he's on the line. Christopher, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Stuart.
It's staggering, isn't it, just how often anger over these politicians' entitlements have come through in your survey?
Exactly. So this is the FairgoforFiftyUps campaign, and we've really asked people a load of questions around superannuation, pensions, cost of living, private health insurance, which is a big one, as we just heard. But you know, I often find the comments are as interesting as the figures that we get,
yes.
And really, they have weighed in very heavily in terms of politicians. So terrific to say that really it's the hypocrisy of politicians saying you guys have to tighten your belt, but they see the politicians as seemingly live on the high hog when it comes to entitlements, and it has really got them spitting chips. I think that's no understatement.
No, that's exactly right. And it is interesting. I spoke first to Joe Hockey some weeks back when all of this first blew up with Bronwyn Bishop. And, I said, here you are talking about the end of the age of entitlement, but it seems it's only the end of the age of entitlement for some and not for you. And bit by bit, I think that's really come through. I noticed one of your campaign members, Joe, saying politicians need to give some leadership and lead by example. And there are plenty who are saying, look, there's no special rules for politicians on cost of living issues like superannuation rules, but there is for us.
There is, and of course we have the case in New South Wales where a state Liberal MP is actually trying to get them to reinstate a more generous super policy.
Yes. I think he's got a death wish. I spoke to the Premier, Mike Baird, the other day, and I said to him, look, are they wasting their money if they chip in $200 each? He said, pretty well, yep, they are. There won't be any changes to the arrangements under this government.
Well, look, that might hose it down about a micromillimetre, I would suggest.
Yeah, but what it highlights, Christopher, is that even in light of all that we've heard, there are still some who seemingly have such a tin ear that they figure that there might be an appetite for change on this front.
Well, certainly they can probably, as they vote these things themselves, they forget sometimes that we vote for them or they hope that time will pass.
Yes.
Look, it is fascinating. I mean, one of the questions we asked, do you think politicians understand cost of living pressures for the over 50s? 90% said no, they're out of touch. And the next biggest was 8%, who were perhaps a little more charitable, who said, yes, they understand, but there's actually nothing very much they can do about it.
Yes.
So I think we are very realistic about what politicians can or can't do, but certainly, being told to tighten your belt and go without, and we're going to change entitlements in terms of pension eligibility tests, and that's affected 320,000 people, and a whole lot of people like me now in their 50s who don't realise what that impact is necessarily going to be.
Yes.
There's some big stuff that happens, but politicians are well being called to account, and this will carry on, I suggest.
Now, what's interesting too is that early last month, the Prime Minister announced there would be a fundamental review into the parliamentary entitlement system. Now, off the back of this, I think, we could lodge a submission on behalf of the 50UP Club. Do you think that's something we could look at doing, where you put in a submission on behalf of members of the 50UP Club?
Absolutely, definitely. And look, if there isn't a formal process for submissions, and there normally is in inquiries, but if there isn't, we'll just do one anyway.
Yes.
We've got some great material, and I really encourage people who are listening who perhaps go to the 50UP Club, and that's 50, F-I-F-T-Y, upclub1word.com, and have a go. It just takes a few minutes to fill in the questionnaire. We've got about 12,000 people already, which is great, but the more people, the more muscle, and it works the way that One Big Switch, the more people are involved, the more swing, the more we can leverage that power to get in, talk to the politicians. I can't say that we can totally single-handedly reform the entitlement system, but they've got to get the message loud and clear. And I know that many of them are in an uncomfortable place at the moment, but we need to make sure that that discomfort is followed by action.
Very true. And the other point is as well, if you feel a sense of frustration that if somehow your voice can't be heard, well, this is a great way to get your voice heard. So you can go to 50upclub.com, and that's 50 F-I-F-T-Y upclub, all one word.com, and then you can follow the links. You'll find that survey. Fill it out. And as part of the submission, your comments may well be included. We can put that together, and drop it in the lap of someone like a Nick Xenophon or someone else, and let's get some action on this and at least have our voices heard.
Definitely, and I think that is one of the true frustrations. People feel that just, once every few years at the ballot box, it's great to be able to speak to radio and talk, but that's a way of having your voice heard. But actually, this is just another way, and we print these all out, so all the thousands of people do weigh up to some heavyweight paper. It does make an impression when you drop it on someone's desk.
It certainly does. So, look, if you want to be a part of that submission, you want to vent your frustration in terms of what's happened with those politicians' entitlements, given it's come through so strongly in this survey so far, the Fair Go for 50 Ups, go to 50upclub.com, FIFTY-upclub, one word, .com. The details are there, and we'll put a submission together, mate. We'll stay in touch.
That would be great. And I might just quickly say it's good ideas too. We do have people venting, but actually there's some really good ideas people have. This is our own sort of 2020 summit, if you want.
That's right.
50 Up Summit.
The 50-50 Summit, we'll call it.
Chip in some good ideas, because
Fantastic.
Actually we need more of them.
Very good. Go to 50upclub.com. Terrific, mate. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, Christopher Zinn joining us from 50 Up Club. It is amazing just having had a look at some of the comments. Again, just highlighting to me how angry people are about all of this stuff.